Welcome to the Money Insights Podcast, where high income earners come to learn wealth building strategies that will take them from high income to high net worth. With your hosts, financial and wealth building experts, Christian Allen and Rod Zabriskie.
Welcome into today's episode of the Money Insights Podcast, where we talk all things money and business. My name's Christian Allen. I'm here with my co-host. You know him as Rodney the Pod Zabriskie. Rod, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. And I'm actually doing even better because we're getting close to May 4th.
May 4th. Okay, well, we're gonna talk about May 4th because that's an important date for us.
Yep.
But before we do, Rod, I have to just say, I'm excited to be back in the saddle. I've been hanging out with the family at Disneyland for the last week. And I am absolutely exhausted. I'm ready to relax and get to work.
Yeah, that was my favorite comment is as we were texting and you were on your way back and apparently they ran you ragged, huh?
They did run me ragged. Yep. We went in there 5 days and just went and they just kept going and going and going. I like to get a bunch of days so that I can just pace myself, go 3 or 4 hours in the morning and 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon. And that's kind of my way of doing it. And we have to stay we have to stay in the Grand Californian, which is right next to the park. Because then you can just easily walk in and out, right? It's hard to do if you have a hotel that's further away because, you have to ride buses and stuff like that or whatever, take an Uber, just takes more time. But can I just tell you, I've got a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they just never stop. I guess he's 11, 15 and 11. Anyway, It was super fun. We had a good time. They got lots of compliments on there. They're both really funny kids. They're kind of quirky kids, and so they have really specific things they like. Like Kate has loved Oswald for years. That's her Oswald the rabbit. Now people know Oswald now, but it was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago when she was telling me about Oswald. I didn't even know who it was. Anyway, so she loves Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. And if anybody doesn't know who that is, that was the precursor to Mickey the Mouse.
Precursor.
Crazy,
man.
Huh?
Look at that.
Okay, but that's not why people are chiming, or they're not coming here to learn about Disneyland. Although, can I just tell you, Kate and I have been considering putting out the Disney for Dummies podcast. We would be the dummies, but we just really we love Disney. Okay, but again, that's not why people are here, Rod. You brought up something far more important, and that was an important date, May the 4th, which is coming quickly.
Yeah.
And if you've been listening to us, you'll know that that's the date of our virtual summit. Okay, so it's coming up in just under a month from now. We're recording this on April 7th, but we have some pretty big news as it relates to the virtual summit.
Yeah.
So before I give that news, Rod, I'm going to introduce the topic for our show. And then as we do our countdown, we'll introduce it formally. Okay.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about the 7 reasons why you don't want to miss the virtual summit. Okay.
Yep. And
there's probably more reasons, but we're just going to focus on 7 for today. So the first reason, which is really the 7th, that I wanted to kind of try to do it in order of importance. It's really hard to do that, but that was the attempt initially. We may have gone a little bit out of order at some point, but okay, here's it. This is the least of any reason why you should attend the virtual summit, but it is still a reason.
Still amazing. Yep.
Okay. So our big announcement is that the virtual summit is now going to be completely free. Okay, so here's the deal. We put out tickets, and the reason we put a price tag on it was because we just wanted to emphasize the fact that we have real value, really good people, right? That are providing, they're going to bring their A game with really great content. And so we wanted to make sure that there was value there. And so what's happened is we basically have had the people who already know us and we have relationships with. Our clients are the people who are buying the tickets, and we're kind of gosh, that's not really like, we're not really in this for money, right? We're in this to continue to educate and build the business. So for that reason, we decided we may have missed the mark a little bit, because we want to cast a wider net with the focus and emphasis still on our core, like the people that we normally work
Absolutely.
with, high
Yeah.
income earners.
Mm-hmm.
But Rod, we want to make it more available to people, even if they don't know us as well and they need to get some exposure. Because can I just tell you, the first exposure being the list of speakers that we have on the virtual summit, that's pretty dang good.
Absolutely.
Whew, okay, so number 7, Rod, is it's free.
Yep.
There's no excuses, no reason to miss it. We also we've seriously taken out any potential reasons to miss it, because not only is it free, but we're also going to make available a replay. So if you can't be there on that given day, still register, and you're going to get probably 7-8 hours of really high level content from masters and experts in their field of wealth building.
Absolutely.
Okay, Rod. So that was number 7. That's our big announcement. The virtual summit's free, coming up on May 4th. You can still go to mivirtualsummit.com and register for the summit there. Okay, let's go to number 6, Rod. This is where we start to get into like the value, the real value, right? So we were talking about this and trying to figure out a way to articulate some of the value. And this is what we came up with for number 6. We came up with this idea that there's really no better wealth building education that exists anywhere on the planet.
Absolutely.
Or probably in any other planets too. I mean, I don't know for sure, but like, as far as I know, on this planet, there is probably no better teachers than what we've got coming into the speaking at our virtual summit.
Absolutely. Master teachers, right? That's what we have. People who obviously they know their thing, and we'll get into this later as far as like the speakers themselves. But right now we're just focusing on the idea that they know their stuff and they are experienced and just really, really good at educating and articulating the why, the how behind everything that they do.
Yeah, and that's powerful, because again, so you've got teachers who are teaching us from a place of both experience in actually accomplishing the things that they're talking about and teaching, but then they have years and years of experience and then helping people replicate the successes that they found on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really incredible. So we're excited about that. And we genuinely believe in, when we talk about, we're going to do kind of a list out of our speakers and talk a little bit more about them, but we genuinely believe that they're as good as we could possibly hope to get. Absolutely. Okay, Rod. So number 7 was that it's free. That's the worst reason to go to to register for the virtual summit, but still a reason. Number 6 is there's not a better wealth building education that you can find anywhere, because we're dealing with master teachers. Number 5, Rod, is it's going to be a great way to stay up to date on what's happening in the financial world. And the reason that it ends up being that is because it goes back to our lineup of speakers, right? We have people who are experts and masters in real estate and tax and debt reduction and wealth building. And so these various things that people have all, like, we're not just going to get we're going to get the tried and true methodology and principles. But I think what's nice too is because of the people that we're going to be dealing with, people like Tom Wheelwright, like every time I hear Tom speak, he gives up-to-date material on what's happening in the tax world today as it relates to high income earners, right? What are the opportunities today? So I think obviously they're not economists, right? But then you move over to someone like Ken McElroy and Buck Joffrey, who have a wealth of experience in the multifamily real estate space. So we're going to get not only an in-depth perspective from what's tried and true, but we're going to get a good idea of what's happening today. So we're going to try to be what's on the cutting edge.
Yeah, there's a little bit going on in the world these days, right? And it affects these things. This is no surprise to people, right? They're living it. But as it relates to the specific topics that these people are going to cover, they are cutting edge. They're right on top of it.
Yep. And I think that's a fantastic reason to be there. Okay, Rod, number 4, and we are working down to the big one. Number 4, Rod, is that you're going to get exposure to new wealth building opportunities. And when I was thinking of this, I was kind of thinking more along the lines of like actual exposure to what's happening in the tax world, what's happening in the real estate world, but not from a general standpoint, but because of the people and the connections, there should be opportunities to find new deal. Okay. So let's say it this way. We have 7 different speakers, I guess, 7 or 8 different speakers, right? And they all have kind of their different audiences and their different focuses and their different expertise. And so when those things end up coming together, right now, if I come from, let's just say theoretically that I have been a listener of Buck's podcast.
Okay.
And now I have an opportunity to get exposure to the group that follows Adam Carroll and some of the things that he's teaching. So I guess my thought around this was that you'll get exposure to actual new wealth building opportunities, things like real estate and tax that you just wouldn't get otherwise. Is that fair?
Yeah, and getting into the nitty-gritty details, like the content of what they're going to cover is really hitting on those things head on.
Okay, Rod, we're getting close. Number three, and this is important. When we built the virtual summit, we wanted it to be packed with action items that people can use today to go out and like take things to that next level. So one of the things that we 100% believe that we'll get at this is practical strategies that you can immediately put into action.
Yeah. And kind of, we've been hinting around this, but in a lot of different directions. Obviously in wealth building, right? But as it relates specifically to like people who are working towards financial freedom, right? You have your working job, you want to have passive income to replace that. Well, we're going to hit that head on. So all of these, again, it's practical, it's tactical types of stuff that you can be doing today to move toward the goals that you already have.
Well, you think about someone like Sharon Lechter, she has such a wealth of experience in things like entrepreneurship, right? Like she's going to talk about practical strategies and things you can do to build generational wealth. And anyway, each one of them are going to be focused on not just the principles, but the practical application of how to make those things happen right now.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Rod, number 2. And this is probably the reason that gets me to go to these types of things when I go. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a huge attender of like, I like the virtual summits because I can that works for me, right? I don't love the in-person meetings and summits. That's a struggle for me, but the virtual ones, they work really well. But part of the reason I find myself going to those is because I love the personal development that comes with it, right? Because you're being exposed to other people who are thoughtful, who have some of the same goals, objectives, ideas, and then even better, they have some other goals, ideas, and objectives that you don't necessarily have. And so, so I usually leave that motivated and feeling like, okay, I'm excited about where I'm at. I'm seeing what other people are doing. And I've hopefully, by spending the time and effort, developed some additional skill level so that I can go out and actually apply and make those things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of maybe to restate it a different way, it's like refocusing on those things that have helped you build wealth and get to where you are today, but then moving forward, again, kind of that refocus, like, hey, here are the things, but it's both sides, right? It's the things we've talked about, the tactical, the actual deals, all that kind of stuff. But more generally, the kinds of stuff that have driven you to become what you are now, just pushing you again forward in that same direction.
Okay, Rod, well said. And the number one reason why you don't want to miss the virtual summit is because we have an incredible lineup of speakers. Now we keep referencing that, but now we're going to talk a little bit about each of them. Okay. So here's how we're going to roll through this, and we're not going to like belabor it, but we want to hit on some of the like high points or some of the key accomplishments that each of them have had. Because can I be totally honest with you? Like obviously I knew all the names. These are people I know and have relationships with, or most of them, right? And yet, just kind of going through it, I was impressed, kind of digging a little bit deeper and finding some of the things that they've accomplished and done that I didn't know about.
Yeah,
so we want to
absolutely.
highlight who we've got and why we think they're going to be such good speakers for the event. Okay, so the first one that we have is Sharon Lechter. And Rod, did you know, I think you did know this, but did you know that Sharon Lechter was the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is, again, the most iconic wealth building book ever written, I would say.
Yeah.
But not only that, Rod, did you know
Okay.
that she's co-authored 14 additional books in the Rich Dad series?
That's impressive. I did know on the first one about Rich Dad Poor Dad, so that one was pretty good. And it didn't surprise me to find out, you say, additional books, but that's a lot, like 15 total
That's
books.
a lot of books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, Rod, so we talk about Sharon as the co-author, and can I just be honest, maybe this is wrong to say, but it feels like Sharon sometimes gets a little bit less publicity than Robert Kiyosaki. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
But she was also the CEO of the Rich Dad organization for 10 years and helped build that into the empire that it is today. So Sharon Lechter is really cool. She's not only has she written books, she's also a CPA by trade, right? So she's like really well educated, but not just a CPA. I'm trying to remember, CPA and a chartered global management accountant. Now, can I be honest with you? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
However, I can tell you that it seems like it's quite impressive.
Yeah.
A couple other things, Rod. She's also the founder and CEO of Pay Your Family First, which is an organization that focuses on financial education. So this kind of goes back to our point before about how we have master educators.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's spent her life doing that. A couple other things before we move on to the next person. Everybody knows Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. It's, again, one of the most iconic books ever written. And what's really cool is they reached out to Sharon Lechter to work together to kind of reinvigorate some of the Napoleon Hill teachings. And so she's written 3 books in the Think and Grow Rich series. The most recent one was in 2014, and it was Think and Grow Rich for Women. So she's just done she's just unbelievable. She's done an incredible amount of stuff. She's going to be talking about building generational wealth, and I don't know that there's anyone better to take on that topic.
Can I tell you one takeaway that I have from this? In previous podcasts, I've talked about how not only did I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we got really excited about that, Cash Flow Quadrant, etc., but we also got the board games.
Yes.
Right. Rich Dad 101, and then the Rich Dad for Kids.
Yeah.
And now I know really where those came from. Like just seeing and hearing about Sharon with her, not only just her ability to be a great communicator and author, but the whole education side of it, all that, it just reeks of, okay, she's really like the driver behind some of the other stuff, that the content around just the core book. So
yeah, I don't doubt that that's the case. I 100% agree. Okay, so we've got Sharon Lechter. We're super excited to have Sharon. She's going to be awesome. Like I said, she's talking about building generational wealth. Okay, Rod, why don't you talk to us a little bit about our next speaker on our lineup, Tom Wheelwright.
Okay, absolutely. Now, first of all, I think you probably do know that he's a tax and wealth expert, CPA, CEO of Wealthability, this large CPA organization across the country. my guess is you also knew. Oh, go ahead. Did you have
I
something
was
on
just
that?
going to say, so something interesting about Wealthability. Wealthability is also, well, part of the model of Wealthability is about education as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's an element to working with like a Wealthability firm potentially to get taxes done, but there's also this element of he's created an education program specifically for high income earners, investors, alternative wealth builders, to help them be more tax efficient as they go. So
Yeah.
again, emphasis on education.
And I can give you anecdotally just a conversation that I had with one of our clients who signed up for Wealthability, got into the education program, the classes, and before he even met with an accountant and a CPA, or maybe even before he was assigned to somebody, he had taken in that information and was already starting to make those changes and felt like that he had more than paid for the price tag that he paid to get in the door to get the content with the changes he made before even meeting with the CPA. So again, just this the quality of the educational content is just bar none.
Awesome. Yep, he's really good.
Yep.
Tom's been. I've listened to him several times. I mean, we've spoke a couple of Bucks events together and that kind of thing, and he always does a really fantastic job.
Absolutely. Okay, well, so the next one is no surprise that he is also a Rich Dad advisor. He is famously Robert Kiyosaki's CPA, and obviously an entrepreneur, like building up multiple different businesses along the way. But did you also know, Christian, that Tom Wheelwright is an international speaker and he has spoken on every continent?
I did not know that. I wonder if he can speak a dozen different languages, or if he speaks if he's always speaking in English. But I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. I do know that he's renowned for his expertise in tax, so it's not like surprising.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that about him. So
yeah, and I've heard him share stories about when he was like traveling with Robert Kiyosaki, as he would go to these different countries, and then they would speak about tax. And Robert would, call him over. Hey, I need you to help me, answer some questions to these people in whatever, some South American country or whatever, about tax here. And he, I mean, just clearly was just so well versed. And I'm not gonna pretend. Maybe he knew every detail, but maybe not. But just the fact that he could cross international lines
and have a conversation,
still just be able to speak, be conversant on the tax of those countries, just amazing.
Yeah, that is really remarkable, Rod. And you know what else I didn't know? Well, I did actually know this one. He's a best-selling author of several books.
Yeah, probably the one that's the most well-known is called Tax-Free Wealth. And that is, I think that's just a must read. So if you're lining them up and you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you read Cash Flow Quadrant, then the next one I think after that should be Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright.
Okay, so this is really funny, Rod. I didn't even know this until, I didn't think about this until recently. But this would have been like maybe close to 10, 15 years ago. There was a guy that was wanting me to kind of join forces and do some things with me, like working venture. And I remember him handing me a book. And now I know that was, so this was before I actually knew Tom personally, but I was given Tom's book, Tax-Free Wealth, long before I actually knew him. And I remember reading, I didn't read the whole thing, but I remember reading a good chunk of it, and I was just always impressed. So anyway, the roots with Tom Wheelwright are strong. We've done a handful of phone calls with him, with clients, and he's always just done a really great job. So super excited to have him. And the books are like kind of must read, must have books for, maximizing tax efficiency, especially.
Absolutely. Okay. Maybe just a couple last things to hit on. And again, with every detail I bring up, it's like, I want to keep expanding on it, but I mean, he also has 2 podcasts, right? The Wealthability Show with Tom Wheelwright, and then the Wealthability for CPAs show. So again, education on many levels, right? Educating the CPAs and educating kind of the general public, the consumers that are wanting tax health and wealth building help. So,
well, and it to me, it shows something when you're in your profession and the other people within your profession look to you, right?
Oh yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
what Tom is.
Yeah. So he's going to talk about the 3 investments that the government will pay entrepreneurs to make.
Tom's always got intriguing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited to learn about the 3 investments the government will pay on. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love when the government will pay me to make investments. Okay, so I'm excited about that. All right, Rod. Our next speaker is a 2-time TEDx speaker, which, by the way, is no easy feat, right? But Adam Carroll, obviously, he created the Shred Method, right? So people that have listened to the podcast will know him because he was on, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, talking about and teaching us about like the Shred Method and kind of how it works and kind of giving us some exposure to it. But again, even in that one, we probably didn't highlight a lot of the other things that he's accomplished. Right. Again, the fact that 2-time TEDx speaker, and I think the one has 7 million views. Like, it's just incredible. So I remember when I first listened to it, Rod, I just couldn't have been more impressed. It was his delivery was incredible. The messaging was fantastic. It just really fit. So if you want to hear a really good, polished speaker, Adam Carroll is absolutely that. But not only does he bring like the polish, he also brings like some really, really good content.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of other things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rod. A couple other things. He's also the creator of the Broke, Busted, and Disgusted documentary. Okay, I did not know that.
I didn't either. Yeah.
But that aired on CNBC, so that's kind of cool. He's a 4-time Amazon best-selling author. We talked about he's the founder of the Shred Method. He's going to be talking about how to play the Banks game and win. I like it. I'm just going to leave it at that. So if you want to learn how to play the Banks game and win, you're not going to want to miss Adam Carroll's presentation on May the 4th. Okay, Rod. Oh, wait, do I need to? No, that's good. I think that's good with him. Okay, so talk to us next about Ken McElroy.
Yeah, Ken McElroy is a late ad. So if you've kind of seen the evolution of us kind of touting what's coming up, we would announce the speakers and he was on, then he was off, and then now he's on.
He was an early ad and then a scratch and a late. We got him back. So there was a little bit of a conflict, but we managed to make it work.
Absolutely.
With a little creativity.
Yep. So, I mean, Ken McElroy, again, like a whole plethora of things we could focus on. But let's just start with, he has more than $1 billion of investment capital in real estate. Okay.
Yeah, that's incredible. So not many people can say that.
Yeah, and so going back in time, he also is a Rich Dad advisor. So Robert Kiyosaki's personal advisor as it relates to investing in real estate, which then led to him authoring several books inside of the Rich Dad series, including about more general real estate investing, but then also books focusing on multi-family real estate, property management, kind of several different facets of the whole kind of real estate investing world. He has a podcast. Right. Not surprising. Right. And it's called The Real Estate Strategies with Ken McElroy. So again, taking principles, bringing them kind of down to earth and making them usable.
Okay, Rod, I have a question for you.
Okay.
This isn't a trick question, so just give me what comes to mind. So when you think about like Robert Kiyosaki, what would you say are the, few things he's best known for? What comes to mind from your perspective?
I mean, obviously the book, right?
The book. Okay. So Rich Dad Poor Dad and like Cash Flow Quadrant. Yep.
Yeah. And it's that philosophy behind it of basically becoming master of your own destiny and creating passive income to replace your working income. So that's,
and he talks about where to do it though. Right. So,
yeah.
So the emphasis, I guess, that I was going to put on this is just that when I think of Robert Kiyosaki, and I immediately think of real estate, right? Because that's how he has kind of taught people to build wealth. That was like the principle that was happening in that he and Sharon were teaching in the book. Okay, so it just says a lot if you're an expert in real estate and Ken McElroy over here is your advisor specific to real estate. So the point I was getting at is just that Ken knows the real estate market as well as anybody. We know Ken through Buck Joffrey, who I know has had a mentored relationship in some ways with Ken over the years. Anyway, we're super excited to have Ken McElroy speaking. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and can I hit on just one last thing, and that is, again, this idea of his being a great educator, because he has master courses that people will pay good money to get into and learn about real estate investing, and he also has what he calls the inner circle, the Ken McElroy inner circle of people where they just, again, they collaborate, they do cool things. So just really excited.
Learn from a master, right?
Yep.
Hey, Rod, next we have Chris Larson, the CEO of and creator of Next Level Income. Chris is a good friend of ours. We've been working together for 6 or 7 years. And so what's been really cool about Chris is we've seen him hit a lot of really impressive milestones, right? So when we first met him, he was still working his job while investing in real estate and building up a passive income. And now you look at it, 5, 6, 7 years later, and he's got a hugely significant passive income that he's built. He left his job years ago. He's continued to build up his business, Next Level Income. Since starting in the real estate space, he's been involved with $1 billion of real estate acquisitions. He's gotten into development, private lending, buying distressed debt, commercial office. He's done all sorts of different types of real estate. And one of the other cool things is he also owns a bunch of car washes across the Southeast. So Chris really does have his hand in a lot of things. And from my personal experience with him, I know that he is an incredibly honest, straightforward, and he's very dedicated to his craft. I don't know if that's the right word to say. He's detail oriented, right?
For sure.
Some of the things I love about Chris is that when he tells us things, we know it's rock solid, right? He's not like a sales guy. He just is a good guy teaching principles that have helped him build a really impressive, financial portfolio of real estate, and he's helping other people do the same.
Yeah, and within that kind of coaching that he does, he also has master classes that I've been able to watch. And again, he's like the detail orientation, that part of it is there, but it's very practical, very again, it's a lot of it is his own experience coming through of, hey, this is what I've done, this is how I've done it, and that I think is going to come through in his presentation as well.
So, Rod, his presentation title is 6 Figures of Passive Income, and basically, like you said, it's how I went from a 6-figure career to 6 figures of passive income.
Awesome.
Okay, Rod, next on our list, we have our good friend, Buck Joffrey. Talk to us a little bit about Buck.
Yeah, so Buck comes from a little bit of a different direction than any of these others, because he originally was trained to be a surgeon. And basically what happened is he built up a really good business inside of that, and so surgeon turned entrepreneur, builds that up, gets to a place where he's starting to learn a lot of these principles from Tom, from Ken, right? Directly from some of these people that we're also going to have, and decides to pretty quickly leave his practice as a surgeon and become a professional investor. So again, becoming very successful in what he was doing. And then he started a podcast, the Wealth Formula Podcast, where he basically teaches people. It's a lot of different personal finance type of focus. So it's a little more broad based than maybe some of the other things we talked about, where Tom may focus specifically on tax or whatnot, Ken specifically on multifamily. Buck's doing a lot of those things, but a lot of other, again, more broad based in the personal finance space, focusing on things outside of Wall Street.
Yep, right? That's critical. And can I just say he's been prolific at doing, most of those things. Like it's pretty impressive when you think about, it was only, 6-7 years out of his training that he ultimately decided to leave. But in that short time, he had already built up a few like successful medical practices while at the same time investing in real estate, to the point that, again, 6-7 years later, he decided to he was able to go all in on the real estate. And so he has a really impressive personal portfolio of real estate, but he's also been a prolific syndicator and, helping a lot of other people get access to powerful, real estate opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise.
Absolutely. He's a huge advocate of investing in real estate, specifically multifamily. That's kind of the niche that he likes, especially. But even beyond that, if you get onto his Wealth Formula platform, you'll learn about things like he has an ATM fund that creates really cool streams of cash flow. More recently, kind of syndicating on a business level with some opportunities there. So he's creative. He surrounded himself with some really cool people, to experts in their own field, so to speak, so that he can bring value and opportunity. So as it relates to this, the presentation he'll be given at the virtual summit, he's going to focus on, his title is Alternative Assets and Augmenting Your Returns.
Okay. Oh man, these presentation titles are cliffhangers, aren't they? I'm intrigued. Okay, so finally we're Rod and I are going to speak, and we're going to talk about basically how to accelerate the timeline that it takes to create the financial independence that we're all looking for. Yep. So, man, I'm just excited about it, Rod. It's coming quick. This episode already went longer than I expected. I thought we'd roll through it in like 20-25 minutes. But there's just a lot of really cool things to talk about as it relates to the speakers. We're super excited. We really hope that you'll make an effort to register. Again, there's really no reason not to be involved with it. Mm-hmm. You get incredible content from really great people, and it can even be on your terms. We're hoping that we have a lot of people there live during on May 4th. But even if you can't be there at that time, there's no reason not to register and get it. So with that said, Rod, we will see you at the Alternative Wealth Building Virtual Summit for High Income Earners coming up on May 4th.
Thank you for listening to the Money Insights Podcast. To learn more about the financial and business strategies discussed in this show, please visit moneyinsights.net. The views and opinions expressed on the Money Insights Podcast are not intended to be individual financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with the appropriate advisor before making financial decisions. And if you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This will help others find the show and learn wealth-building strategies for themselves. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.